Saludos amigos, bienvenidos a una nueva edición del Calentón. And today my guest is Travis Bank. How are you, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate it.
Man, how the first question that I always do in this kind of podcast where I speak with wrestlers from other part of the world, and probably if they're from Puerto Rico, I ask the same question too. Where the passion or the love for professional wrestling start in your case?
It's, it goes back to, I think, for everybody, even if you're a fan, it goes back to when you're a kid. And I was a really big fan of video games. And one video game I really loved was Mortal Kombat. I've told the story like a bunch of times, and I remember when I was maybe 7 or 8, my sister had a boyfriend that was really into professional wrestling, and we went around to his house, and WCW was on the TV. I'd never seen it before, and the first match I ever saw was Glacier versus Mortis. And Glacier looks like Sub Zero, and Mortis looked like Shao Kahn or some sort of villain, you know. And I remember just right then, for whatever reason, I don't like. It's never been the same feeling since. Not watching movies, nothing. Like for some reason, I was really, really drawn to it. And every time I would watch WCW from then on, I was just like, how do I do this? Like, I don't know. Even when I was a little kid, I was like, I want to do this. How are people doing this in like real life? And like it was always like something in my mind that stuck with me. And I don't know, it just kind of like every decision that I made when I went through school, I took drama, I took all the sports that I could, I took karate, I did a little bit of amateur wrestling. Every decision that I made was for this like weird, like thought process in my head of like, oh, I want to do that one day. But in New Zealand, like I had no idea how to do it. It was just like, oh, that's something I want to do. That's in my head. How do I do it? Oh, do drama, do sports, do this, and try and get prepared for it, and then maybe I'll figure it out later. But I never actually even thought that I was gonna actually get in the ring. So it was just something that stuck with me ever since I first watched it.
How after you tell this story and every decision that you took was based on I want to be a professional wrestler at some point in my career, when that began to happen for you?
Um, so in 2008, it was the year before I started. So I started in 2009. In 2008, I was in me and my best friend, we've been in wrestling. We've loved wrestling since we were little. We watched it, everything. And we were walking. So in New Zealand, it's obviously a very small country. There was a city right next. My town has like 1,000 people in it. Like that's how like it's such a small town. And then the city next to us has like 15,000. It's not even really a city comparative to other countries, you know. And we were walking around the city one day. It was called Palmerston North, and there was a poster on the wall. And I looked at it, and it kind of just caught our eye, and it had Raven from WWE, Raven's face, like on the poster. And we were like, "Is that Raven?" And we kind of were like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "In New Zealand?" Like we went over. It was just like an indie show, and I didn't even know anything about independent wrestling at that point. I had sort of I'd sort of Googled stuff, and I didn't really kind of like take it seriously. I didn't really understand what it was until I saw that poster. Then I went, "Oh, it's a show. We should go. We should go check it out." And so me and my friend went. We met Raven. Um, it was one of those moments of kind of like don't meet your heroes because he wasn't like kind of what we thought he was gonna be. And we were taking photos with him, and halfway through the photo session, he just started because he was fine because I think we paid like a VIP ticket or something, and then halfway through the photo session, for some reason, he just changed his mind and he started charging photos for the photos, and we were like, "What the fuck?" But yeah,
Yeah.
it was really crazy. It was insane. And then we watched the show, and I'd always been like into sports and in shape. I like to work out when I was in high school and stuff. And a lot of the guys on the show, on the independent show, they weren't like in shape or they didn't have very good gear and stuff. And I was thinking, fuck, if these guys could do it, maybe I could have a shot at this. And that was kind of like being in that crowd that night, kind of like the realization set in that I could maybe actually do this. and maybe I should find out some more information. So I went and talked to the promoter of the show, and then and then the rest is sort of history. I got in contact with him, and then I went down and started training with him the next year.
Yeah, so basically that moment, that seeing that poster of Raven changes your life
Yeah,
basically. Even
yeah,
though Raven wasn't what you were expecting,
yeah.
probably seeing his face was what got you to be a professional wrestler today.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I think like a few years earlier he was like at WrestleMania 17, and yeah, he was at WrestleMania 17, and you know like, that's like a great WrestleMania. And then here he was in like my like in New Zealand, and I was like, what the? It was the most jarring thing. I was like, of all things to see, like as I was walking down the street, it like caught my eye, like I was supposed to see it, you know. And just another story from that show was he, I don't know, he wrestled this guy called TNT from Australia, and the guy TNT, he was doing a better job, and I was booing him more than I was cheering Raven. I was like, wow, that guy's great, and I don't even know who that is. Like that was like another cool thing. And Raven did these like weird spots as well. He had like fruit in his pocket. It's kind of like cringy to like tell you about it. It's like weird. It's like he had like fruit in his pocket, like apples or bananas, and he was like taking the banana out of his pocket and being and like pretending it was a phone and stuff. And I was like, I don't really know what's happening.
Yes,
Like,
yeah, he was trying like all the stuff, all the silly stuff. He was trying it on the
yeah,
show.
yeah. It's like classic stuff you see on an indie show now, but like at the time I was like, what the fuck? I don't know what this is. But yeah, so no, yeah, it was definitely a very like pivotal moment. And from that night I was like, I could, if these guys can, and I don't mean to sound that like badly or like or I look down on them, but I was just like, if these guys can do this, there's no way I can't start like wanting to do this. So
Yeah, yeah, that was the moment that actually the dream of your childhood became like this can be possible. That moment
yeah,
of realization.
yeah,
Uh, After that, obviously, your career start. You begin doing some many stuff, but I remember that the first time that I hear your name was in the time probably 2015, 16. Progress and Revolution Pro were beginning to like draw many eyes of other people that are on the internet, because that's how probably persons for the United States and all or other places began noticing these wrestlers, because at that time there was no competition to WWE in the United States. So people were looking like New Japan, other stuff, and like people were like listening to these uh, British wrestlers over there doing all this stuff. Walter, Travis Bang, Will Ospreay. How you got over there, because you started in New Zealand? How you starting Progress? How you starting Revolution Pro on and all this class of wrestlers that
yeah.
eventually became like, now they are mainstream names, but at that moment there was just guys trying to make a notice.
So yeah, it was like they say in wrestling, and I think they probably say it everywhere else as well. Like timing is everything.
Yeah,
And it was one of those things, and I think it's the same with anybody in like maybe an entertainment career or any sort of career. It's just like you work so hard for so long, and if you stay consistent, your opportunity will eventually come. Like we'll just line up. So like I from New Zealand, I trained in Japan, I wrestled in Australia at that point, and then I really wanted to just kind of like push myself out and like really like, especially after I came back from Japan, my mindset had like expanded beyond New Zealand, and I went and did a tour with Davey Richards in the States for like 3 months. And I actually got on a dark match with Ring of Honor, which was just, it was just like a 6 man, like easy match. But like after coming back from that tour, I was like, I need to do something. And I was thinking about going back to the States, but it wasn't what I kind of like. Apart from that Ring of Honor booking, it wasn't like kind of what I thought it was at the time. The indies that I worked weren't like that great. Maybe I could do it again. I wasn't sure, but when I was in the States, I met Pete Dunne and Mark Andrews, and they worked the show with me in St. Louis, and we were like backstage, and we were just kind of like, I was telling them, I wrestled in Japan, and Pete was telling me he'd been in Japan, and we were just talking about this and that, and we were kind of just like little schoolgirls being like, "Oh, fucking American wrestling's kind of shit," and all this like, it was just we were kind of just just really got on, and we're just having a good time and stuff. And then I remember when I was thinking about going back to the States, I remembered like talking to Pete about it. And I shot him a message and I said, "What do you think if I came to the UK? Like, what do you think?" And he goes, "I think it would probably be a great idea." He was like, the scene's kind of like getting pretty hot at the moment. It wasn't like full fledged hot at the moment. It was kind of on its rise. And I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe that's okay." So yeah, so I made the decision based on like Pete's recommendation, and then I, yeah, I spent like my last, like I didn't have much money at the time, and I spent like my last amount of like all my savings buying a plane ticket to go there. And it was hard at first. I didn't have many bookings. Like people don't know who you are, obviously, when you go to a new country and stuff. And then because when I was in the States with Davey and Kyle O'Reilly, Kyle O'Reilly was training with Davey at the time as well. And Kyle O'Reilly actually put me forward to this company called Fight Club Pro in the UK. And that was how I got my real start in the UK, because those shows were like more hard hitting. They weren't family orientated. They were more like the style you would know today, more, a lot of big falsies and kicking out of everything, super kick. It was a real like strong style kind of thing. And I was like, for me personally, like I was kind of, I grew up, and when I was getting into wrestling and like starting wrestling, like training and stuff, my favorite stuff was like Ring of Honor 2005, 2004, 2005,
Yeah.
TNA 2005, X Division. I fucking love, like, AJ Styles was like my favorite. Loki was my favorite. Kenta was my favorite. And so, but in New Zealand, and again, it's not like a bad thing, but like they're more like family oriented crowds. And all my matches were like trying to emulate strong style matches and stuff like that. And so like to be able to come to the UK, and Fight Club Pro gave me a platform to be that wrestler. Like that style fitted me perfectly, was what got me noticed. And it was my matches in the start with Zack Sabre Jr. at Fight Club, and then I had another one with him at What Culture on pay-per-view. That was just like this the first time my phone had blown up, like on Twitter and stuff like that. And I was just like, holy fuck, what's going on? Like it happened. Everything happened so fast. And then yeah, it was just, as I said before, it was one of those things of like just the best timing. Like the scene started blowing up. All like a group of like 15 guys: Saber, Pete, Tyler, Marty at the time. Oh fuck, I'm not forgetting Mark Andrews. All those like top level fucking wrestlers. Tommy End was there at the time. Aleister Black, whatever his name is now.
Yeah.
All those guys. Like, it was just a real great moment, and like yeah, just the timing, like to be able to come into that level with those guys and then be able to apply the style to which I like. It was just like everything worked out like perfectly. And then within the year that I got there at the end of 2015, by the end of 2016, I want to say, I was like Fight Club champ. Started like 2017, I'd won Strong Style in Progress. I'd won like the Progress title. It was like 1 year, and it was like fucking everything was like, oh, I was on the PWI. I was doing like PWG and stuff like that. It just, yeah, it was such a whirlwind of like fucking just a crazy time in professional wrestling.
Yeah, so everything changed for you when you got in UK and you can actually be the wrestler that you wanted to be, because as you were saying, on New Zealand it was like more family oriented and you were like draw to other stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously you got in the perfect timing, because the scene wasn't popping up like the way it finally get to be.
Mm-hmm.
So you were like in starting at that moment, because I remember like the What Culture's pay-per-views started like a small thing, and then it was like these huge shows when Kurt Angle arrived and Cody Rhodes arrived, and it was like, damn, these guys from YouTube are having like these huge shows.
Yeah, dude. Like, and because like we couldn't. Again, like in my mindset is just like I'm still like this kid from like New Zealand, so it was like to be able to sit like like even be in the locker rooms with like Kurt Angle and stuff was like the fucking like craziest thing. And I remember, I don't remember I think it was True Death. I don't remember what the pay-per-view was called, but it was like me and Pete versus Ligero and Alberto Del Rio. And like and then I think the show before that, I wrestled Del Rio in a three-way. So I ended up having two matches with Alberto Del Rio, who I just watched like a few years prior win the fucking Royal Rumble, and all that stuff. And you're just like, what the fuck? Like, and then I'm in the back. There's a foot. I was in the back, and I was sitting next to Kurt Angle, like in the locker room, right? And he was, and Jr. Jim Ross was there as well, and like they were just talking, but like just normal people, right? And they're talking about this and that. And I was in on the conversation. I was talking to them as well, and I'm just sitting there going, yeah, like just agreeing. And then I just caught myself going, "What the fuck is going on?" I'm just like having this conversation with like Kurt Angle, like it was the craziest fucking like time. It's such a whirlwind of a time. And then after my match, I went back and I said to Kurt, I said, because he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, great job, man." And I was like, "Oh, did you watch? Do you have any advice?" He goes, "No, you're a great wrestler." And he walked away. And I know he probably just thought, it's just a bit of advice. He's just giving some random kid. But to me, that was like, I was like, what? What? I love Kurt Angle. That's the fucking craziest thing.
Yeah, yeah. So for the meaning for you was completely different for
Yeah.
what probably he was saying. He was like, "Good job," and continue his life. But you were
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Yeah,
And now I'm telling it on a podcast like it was one of the greatest moments of my career.
yeah." So fast forward to this. I remember like when the idea of NXT UK was like starting running online, and when they actually start the tournament and all the people that were there, the names that you heard was like the top guys of
Yeah.
all these independent shows. How was your experience like getting there? How you began getting there, and actually you wrestled in the finals against Zach Gibson.
Yeah.
So how was everything like going on for you? Like from 2 years ago, I started in UK, and fast
Yeah.
forwards 2.5 years, WWE is like doing a company based on UK, and they are trying to get me.
It was crazy. I've told this story as well, but like I did a tryout in 2014, and I wasn't like anybody at that point. I don't even think had I done. I don't remember. I'd been to Japan, but I hadn't been to America yet. I don't think. I don't remember. But anyway, 2014, they did a tryout in Australia, and I was invited, and I stressed about that tryout night and day. I was like sick to my stomach. I was like trying to get ready, always training. I was like, it was like the most stressed I've ever been. And the tryout came, and they didn't really seem interested at all. They were interested in guys like Jonah Rock, Bronson Reed, and like Dakota Kai, and I think the Iconics and stuff at the time. Those sort of had like the interest, and I think that was like the tryout that Rhea Ripley was like picked up from as well. And like they didn't really like seem too interested into me, and like it like crushed me. And I remember as I was walking out, the talent relations guy, his name was Kenyon Seaman, and I said, and I was like, this is like, it was like a movie moment. I was like, I'm gonna go take my chance, and I like walked into the room, and I was like, hey, thanks so much for the tryout, blah blah blah. And I was like, I just wanted to ask you, what do you think that I have to do to be considered for this company? And Kenyon said to me, he goes, look, we've got a lot of great talent here and stuff today. Like, in order for you to stand out, like, you would have to go to another country and like make a name for you. Like, not. He didn't say to another country. He said you would have to go like on the Indies and make a name for yourself, so we would consider you. And I was like, all right. I was like, well, I go. Thank you very much. I'll do that. Like, not really. So cringy now, but like, yeah, I was just like, okay, I'll do that sort of thing. And then fast forward, I went to the UK, made a name for myself, and I went and did the tryout. Then there was another tryout in the UK, and I remember thinking like as I was doing it, how sick to my stomach I was last time, and how much like stress I had and anxiety. And then I was at this trial, and I didn't really care because I had made a name, and like I had options at the time. I was like, I could maybe go to New Japan, I could do this and that. It doesn't stress me out, this one. Like, let's just do this. It doesn't matter. So I did it, and then halfway through like the first day, like William Regal he came beside me, and he was just like, Travis, like, look, just get through the trial. You're already signed. And I was like, But then I was like, I hope I don't fuck up now. But he's told me that. I hope I don't fuck this tryout up. But like, but yeah. So it's just like I just remember as he told me that, I was sitting there thinking like, fuck. Compared this to that 2014 tryout where I was like so stressed, and like here I didn't even care, and then they signed me. I was like, what the fuck? That's crazy. So yeah, that was 2018, I think that tryout was. I think I don't remember. And yeah, so it was interesting. I think at first we had a lot of like big ideals. We thought like NXT was going to be way bigger than maybe that it ended up being.
Yeah.
But the problem was I got injured quite early on, and I think they lost a little bit of faith because I think they had me like pegged for like a top position, and then I got injured, and then a lot of other guys kind of slotted in, which is the nature of the machine in WWE. Got like Ilya came in, and Jordan Devlin was like blowing up and stuff like that. So yeah, and then then it kind of just like the tournament was great. Meeting Shawn Michaels was fucking crazy. And what was crazy about that day was because I think that was our first, like, we had done the download festival, and that was like the first round things for the tournament. So we kind of met everybody. And then I think the first day that I really remember working with Sean was the day of the tournament, and I had 3 matches that day. So like, not only was I stressed about like my first big event, main event, WWE, I was like, fucking gonna meet Triple H and Shawn Michaels and fucking, and then do a good job, and then there was so much like pressure. And but it was good because we kept so busy that day. It was like, Travis, this is what we want from the first match, blah 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 blah. Go out, do the match, come back, give you the feedback. Okay, this next match, this is what we want, blah blah blah. All right, here's the final. Let's go out and do that. Come back, all hugs, smiles, everybody's like cheering and celebrating. And I remember it was just like such a whirlwind. And I got to my hotel room that night, and I was just laying in bed, and like tears were just like welling up in my eyes, like, what fucking just happened? You
Yeah.
know, what is going on? Oh, I was just like, this is crazy. This is crazy. So yeah, and then I don't think, and then NXT, it it kind of, I don't know, it wasn't, not to make it negative or anything, but like it wasn't kind of what I had envisioned my career in WWE to be. But it's also afforded me a lot of opportunities, especially now in Mexico. So
So moving now to the time in Mexico, because I think that you explained really well the machinery of NXT UK and all that, because we haven't have like information about that on the podcast, because we haven't talked with somebody that was on the UK, because we interview somebody that was on the Cruiserweight Classic,
okay,
and the dynamic was like completely different. Similar because they worked on the same day, but it was all on the performance center and in Full Sail, so it's a different platform.
yeah.
So working over there is different stuff. But my question is, the mentality that you got when you like on that 2024 tryout, the person that talked to you told you like, make your name for yourself and all that, and you move out of the country, and then you went to UK. That is the same mentality that you're having now that you are part of the independent circuit in Mexico.
Well, yeah. So my, obviously when I was fired from WWE, and consequently everything that came along with that, and all the online stuff that followed as well, I had to ask myself like a really serious question, like, do I really love this business enough that I still want to give myself a chance in it, and I still want to make the best opportunity that I can? And if that's true, and if that's what I want to do, which is the best way forward for me right now? So it wasn't like a matter of the choice was simple. Like, do I want to stay in this business because I love it and I really want to still give more of myself to it because I feel like I add value to this business? Then how can I make this work in Mexico? So yeah, so that was pretty easy. And then the best part about it is like, now that I've got Jess with me, my partner, like she was just like, she didn't even question it. She was like, okay, we'll go to Mexico then. I was like, fuck, all right. She didn't even care. She was like, if that's what we got to do to make it work, let's go do it.
So the option was always Mexico, because you went to Japan in the past and you went to the UK. So Mexico was like the unknown territory for you in that kind of way.
So I tried to message a few companies in Japan, and because of the pandemic at the time, they weren't doing work visas or anything like that. So they were like, not now because work visas. But then, yeah, I don't know if that was just maybe an excuse because they didn't want like any issues, or I don't know.
Yeah.
That's whatever. But like, that's what they told me. They said, we can't give work visas out now because of the pandemic. We can't justify the work, all this stuff. And I was like, oh, yeah, fair enough. And then I so happened to like was messaging a few people, and I had wrestled Flamita when I was in the UK, and I was messaging him, and I was like, "What's sort of Mexico like?" And he kind of like kind of sold me on it, and he said, we've got a place here that you could stay, blah blah blah, and this and that." And then I was like, "Okay, that actually sounds alright." And like, I don't think it was too strict here with the pandemic. Well, when I got here, it wasn't that strict. Maybe it was before, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so that was, and it was kind of the only place that would allow me to travel there as well. And I didn't really want to like waste any more time because I was just I really wanted to just get my teeth like kind of stuck like sunk into wrestling again. So yeah, so like yeah, we just kind of picked up and moved, and we left my like dog with Jess's parents, and like that was like my biggest regret, like leaving my dog behind. But he's happy with her parents at the moment. We go back and see him sometimes. So
So then you started here on Mexico, where you're at right now, and how has been the experience of working like in the Mexican independent scene? Because you work in the UK independent scene, you work with the US, yeah, with the US independent scene. Mexico is like really fiery fans, because I have saw that in firsthand. And also like Puerto Rico have like crazy fans too,
yeah.
so Mexico and Puerto Rico have like similar backgrounds in terms of fans. How you compare these territories in terms of wrestling and independence wrestling scene?
Um, the actual wrestling, it's Lucha Libre is I didn't know too much. I mean, I know the style, like I obviously understand it, but I understand it a lot better now. But like kind of adjusting to that style, like I was very well, my style is more like strong style and very serious and aggressive kind of style. But I also have another side to me where I'm a little bit more sillier. I've done a lot of like character work and like smaller promotions and stuff. So coming to Mexico has kind of helped me blend that together because the fans really love interaction. They love when you yell at them and scream at them, and they can scream at you and stuff. And it feels a little like freeing. Like there's no shackles here with the crowd. Like you could yell something that's a little bit like offensive, and they'll be like, "That's fucking genius. That was brilliant," and they'll react to it and stuff. So like, so part of me like loves um the it really feels like it's an old school territory. It really feels like the people are really like invested in the characters, especially big names like La Parker, LA Park, or whatever. They like love these characters regardless if their matches are like not the best. They just want to fucking see these characters, and like I think there's like missing in wrestling sometimes. I love the fact that those guys can like just their name can like sell an arena. Like that's a really cool thing that I like about like being in Mexico. um, but yeah, but it's it's been it's been like just it's been a crazy ride because like the wrestling's been awesome, and I've had some of my like greatest matches I think that I've ever like wrestled in front of like some of the hottest crowds that I've ever wrestled. And then on the other hand, like I'm sure you're well aware of this, is like the Mexican wrestling politics is like the most things that you can't even explain. Like you don't even know why people are angry sometimes. You know what I mean? Like you don't even know why things are happening or how things make sense, or you kind of just gotta like strap in for the ride and be like, okay, I'll just wrestle. It's fine. I don't need to get involved in any of this. And then on top of that, you got wrestlers that stiff you for like money, and it's the crate. Like the UK was such a professional scene. Everything was on time. Everything was paid up. Everything was good. But shows would just happen and thing. But here it's like the Wild West, man. Like things just you can't even explain half the things that I've seen here.
Yeah, so but that add value to your career because you have seen anything in wrestling, so
Yeah.
that's kind of crazy too. Man, it has been an honor having you here, and knowing about your career now in Mexico and how you get over there, where people can follow what you're doing right now
Uh,
on social media and all that, because I see that you have a podcast too.
Yeah. Uh,
and I think people can listen to that and follow your career that way too.
yeah. Instagram Travis_Banks 13, TikTok at Kiwi Buzzsaw. My channel is just Kiwi Buzzsaw, I think. I think it is. I don't remember, but I'm not on Twitter. Facebook is Travis Banks Pro Wrestler. But yeah, man. Yeah, it's definitely been interesting here. Like, and again, like you said, it's been tough, but I feel like it's been tough, but for like a positive reason. Like, it's really like helped me to like develop into like a better wrestler and a better person as well. Like, having to always like face challenges here, and like the scene in Mexico, and especially most like Latin American countries, like Spanish speaking countries, like it's incredible. Like, the fan base, like they're so passionate about wrestling, and it like inspires me to want to like keep going, you know.
Yeah, so that's perfect, and the Latino community is like so fire up. They give opportunities, and they want to see you grow and see what happened with the wrestler. As you were saying, we are invested in
Yeah.
in the character, in the wrestler, and in the evolution of it. And that's cool because you were saying like I work like a family style in New Zealand. I work strong style in UK and in Mexico. I have to blend everything that I have learned to
Yeah.
become this version. And that's probably like you were saying you're a fan of Mortal Kombat. Probably going to Mexico is like your final form in terms of like transformation and all that. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
crazy and it's really so it's awesome. Thank you for the time. Thank you for being here.
No, that's okay, man. Yeah, and I appreciate you giving me a platform to tell my story and my experiences and stuff. So thanks, man.
No thanks. See you around. Follow the channel, subscribe to the channel, follow Travis Bank, leave your like, leave your comment. See you around.